I will convene the meeting. This is the special meeting of the Contra Costa County Board of Education Charter Standing Committee. And this is Thursday, the 21st at 9:30 a.m. So the first item on the agenda is call to order and roll call. Natalia, would you call the roll?
Trustee Maxwell,
Here.
trustee Butler,
Here.
and then Mr. McChesney is here.
Yes.
And Mr. Tucker is also on the line.
Very good. So the next item is general information. 2.1, the Board of Education will provide reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities planning to attend the Board of Education meetings to contact the county superintendent's office at least 24 hours before the meeting. 2.2, any disclosable public records related to an open session item on an agenda distributed by the county superintendent to a majority of the members of the county board less than 72 hours before the public meeting are available for public inspection at the Contra Costa County Office of Education and will be made available at the public meeting. 3, public comment. Do we have any public comment today?
Yeah, if you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Seeing none.
Okay. So now we're on to item 4, approval of the agenda. I don't have any changes to,
I move we approve.
okay. Great. So we have approved the agenda at 4.1, and now we're on 4.2, approval of the minutes. Did you
I move we approve the minutes.
agree? Approval, we have approved the minutes for July 15th, previous meeting. And now we'll go on to 4.3, draft MOU for the Method Public Schools Charter, Richmond Charter Academy. And we have several attachments here. So I just wanted to start this by saying, I know we talked about this last time. And because of the Brown Act issue that came up, I think it's important that we amend this one section which addresses governance and deals with the Brown Act in the MOU and some other things in the Schedule A. So Neil, I guess you had some additions as well.
I'm happy to speak to those first if you'd like.
Okay,
Since our last charter committee meeting, the charter, two things happened on my part, and then we can go through your proposed changes. One is there was kind of a lingering question at the end about naming conventions in this, given like the A Method Public Schools entity and the charter. So legal counsel, which again, Mike Tucker's on the line, so you can speak to all of this, went through and kind of cleaned up naming conventions, including at the beginning, like we kind of discussed. And then the second thing is that the charter sent back some proposed changes to the language that I just want to highlight for you. And then there's one line that we added back in because Mr. Tucker noted that somehow it had vanished in the version control probably. Yeah, so I'll just go through those one at a time. Just for clarity, if you're looking at the PDF, things in blue were changes made by Mr. Tucker, and those are almost exclusively naming changes. Things in red were changes proposed by the charter, and then there's one line in purple which I typed in because Mr. Tucker noted it was missing.
This stuff.
Yep. Nope. Well, let me check. Is that the right one? Yes, sorry, that is right. Thank you. Okay, the first, and I'll just point out the substantive things, is 7.2.
so you don't want to go through them in order or what? I mean,
Well, I could point out every one of the Richmond Charter Academies that were changed from RCA and things like that, but I don't know that that's worth our time to look at.
Yeah,
But if you have
no.
questions.
There was one where it was changed and it didn't seem to be changed. Seemed like it should have been, okay, but that's 8, it was 8.1. Okay, so I'll let you go ahead with 7 point whatever.
Okay, 7.2.
Mhm.
You can see the section in red there that is again, red meaning the charter proposed to insert that language.
Can you tell me which document I'm looking at?
The RCA MOU draft 8.21.25 attached.
Okay.
So the red was proposed by the charter.
Correct.
Okay, so it says such training shall be completed on the timeline required for ethics training pursuant to AB 2158. Well, that's great, but ethics training is required every 2 years, and the following sentence is annually, completed annually. So there's a conflict there. The timeline for ethics training would mean that would be every 2 years. And to me, this doesn't address when you have a new hire or new employee, they should get Brown Act training right away instead of waiting either for the end of the year or 2 years. So I saw that. I'm not sure what the best solution is, but I mean, ethics training includes some Brown Act training, but maybe we just add in addition, change the last sentence and make it addition for new hires or new appointees that should have Brown Act training. What do you think?
Again, I'm just gonna point out the areas in terms of what I think about this line. I don't know that it's necessary, given that Schedule A, and again, the next sentence that you pointed out, Trustee Butler, specifies a frequency by which these trainings shall occur. You can strip it back out. This is just language proposed by the charter. Mr. Tucker, do you have an opinion on this one?
No, if it's a legally required training, the law requires that they do it regardless of what we put in the MOU. And so I don't have any particular issue with the language proposed by the charter school.
Thank you.
So the law says that we have to do Brown Act training every 2 years. Does it all, and it also, as I recall, says we have like 90 days, right? If you're a newly elected board member or appointed,
For Brown Act training or for ethics training? Because this is talking about ethics training. Ethics training includes some Brown Act training, but it's not the same.
oh, it's requirements. Oh, participating in training on the.
It's based on the requirements in that law. I'm looking up the law.
Yeah, that's what,
The law for what?
AB 2158, just to see what it says about
Yeah,
timing.
I looked it up yesterday. It says.
The
it says
timing,
it-
I believe, is based on each individual person. It's not the institution's time. So, it's not that, let's say, in our case here at CCCOE, we do it, in 2024, 2026 to 2028. It's based on when you walk in, the individual,
Right.
and it's their 2-year timeline. So this would cover new hires. That's what
Right,
I think it is.
But,
That's how I understood it.
okay, but this is ethics training, right? Ethics training is, you're required by this coming January because it's brand new, right? For everyone. You're required by this coming January in that, yeah, and you're right, then after that, every 2 years. And if you get appointed or hired later, it's within the every 2 years. But the point here, yes, that as the Mr. Tucker said, that's already required in the law. We don't need to add that there. What's important to me is that they get the Brown Act training. Brown Act training is just a part of ethics training. I don't see any problem with leaving that out and having the last sentence cover it.
I agree.
Do you have any problem with that? Trustee Maxwell?
yeah.
I think the frequency is covered already.
Yeah, I mean, that's an additional thing now that they have to get ethics training. That wasn't already on our list because that's new.
Okay,
But
I'll keep going.
let's keep going.
8.2, just down slightly, it might be the same page, yep. The charter school proposed eliminating the last two sentences from that section. This is about notification to the County Office of Education in the event that charter school is has provided notice to the CPC about an employment termination or status change regarding allegations of misconduct, right? So there's a requirement that an employer provides a report to the CTC, basically a kind of record keeping on, it's attached to that person's credential if there's allegations of misconduct. And what this language previously required is that a copy of that report would be sent to us as well.
Why wouldn't we want a copy of that? On our side, what? Do you see a reason for that? Is it because maybe it's like personal information about the employee or what? But I mean, I think it's important if there are problems that we would know about it.
I mean, I think you could probably argue both sides of this issue, and Mr. Tucker and I discussed this briefly when we received this, but on the one hand, sure, as an authorizer, maximizing the amount of information I have is theoretically a good thing.
Right.
On the other hand, you know, employment issues happen,
Do we want to be in the HR business?
quote unquote, bad employees get hired at any institution. What matters to us is when there's liability, and that liability comes usually in the form of litigation or, you know, notice of, you know, pending litigation or something like that. You know, if a charter's doing their job here, just like for us, when something unfortunate happens with an employee and you go through the steps to end that employment, you've done your job. I don't know that we necessarily need to have that information. Like, what would the benefit of me knowing that? Theoretically, the only thing I could think of was like, if there was a pattern somehow of like issues, but again, like, nobody's trying to go hire the person that they're gonna have to fire for alleged misconduct. Does that make sense?
Right,
So that all sounds good, but I'm thinking of it, there's been situations you read about in the paper where there's a staff member who's inappropriate with the student, and then it turns out they worked at a different school and then got let go and then just went to the other school, and it makes you wonder why, you know, why did that not get caught and that person, you know, how did that happen? And wouldn't this alert you to that kind of thing?
We're not the employer, though.
would it alert us or would it put us on the liability chain? I mean, would all of a sudden we're included in, hey, you guys took a look at the reports, how come you didn't catch it? That to
Well,
me,
We wouldn't be hiring them, but.
so why would we, again, then I would go back to why would we want to see it?
How is,
I don't want to be in the HR business.
all right, what does Mr. Tucker have to say about this topic?
I was just trying to find the raise a hand function and I can't find it.
Just butt in.
Just yell.
Yeah, I'll just scream or sigh really loudly or something and you'll know. So there has been recent changes in the law that I believe applies to charter schools as well. That when any local educational agency seeks to hire a new teacher, that applicant is required to provide the new LEA with a list of all of the LEAs that applicant has worked for. And then we can get information, particularly the information that Trustee Butler has identified, like egregious misconduct is what we call it under the law. And they're required to disclose that to us. So if the fear is that the county office might inadvertently attempt to hire someone who has been dismissed under allegations of egregious misconduct, I believe that law would cover it. So really the inclusion of this particular sentence, I think, would be a preference of the committee and the board, whether or not they want to receive that information and what the county office would actually do with it. I'm not sure. I think that's really where Neil and our conversation came into play. Is if we receive a report that the CTC has been notified of a employment change of a teacher. What are we going to actually do with that information? I'm not sure. A lot of these things depend on the circumstances involved. It might be good to know, it might not. I don't know. The most common scenario that I've been involved with in our HR work is a teacher engages in some form of misconduct. The employer begins an investigation into the conduct, and before charges are actually drafted to dismiss the teacher, there's conversations that take place regarding the teacher's potential resignation. And when they resign in lieu of charges or in lieu of a hearing, that's when you have to notify CTC. And that's typically what ends up happening. So we would ostensibly receive that information. Charges haven't been proven. The hearing hasn't been conducted. So what information, like what value is that actual report? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what value it is.
I think I agree. And to confirm, Mike, because I was talking with the superintendent about this the other day, that new law, and I can't remember what it is, AB something, does apply to charter schools.
Okay. Well,
So I guess my opinion is I'm okay with that not being in there.
all right, I'll go with that. Okay, so can we go back up? I just have a question.
Sure.
8.1, at the very first of the sentence, it said AMPS and now it says Richmond Charter School, deemed the exclusive employer of the employees. I thought the employer was a Method Public Schools, not just the charter school itself.
Mr. Tucker can confirm why he changed this one. He thinks this, I think, better reflects what's required in the law. Mr. Tucker?
Yeah, so the Charter Schools Act requires that the charter school, in their petition, affirm that they are the exclusive employer of the employees of the charter school. That's why I made that change there. I'm just going to grab their petition real quick to see what they listed. I'm assuming that they listed the charter as the exclusive employer, but I will confirm that. Also, at the top of the document, we included a clause that basically the responsibilities of the charter school are the responsibilities of the management organization and vice versa. So when I went through the naming convention here, I just tried to put in, like, would this be a responsibility more likely of the charter to actually and practically satisfy this obligation, or would this be something that would be more the obligation of the charter management organization? That's why I made those changes, but that's why I made that particular change here.
Is AMPS the charter management organization?
Correct. It's the nonprofit, it's the board. And I was just actually reminded, Mike, this in particular should say Richmond Charter Academy, not Richmond Charter School.
Got
So
it.
that's a change we'll have to correct there. It's just a typo.
Okay.
Okay, then the next two, which are both, I think, pretty innocuous, 8.4. This is just I think a cleaner way of saying the same thing. It's about the requirement for teachers to hold the proper credential or certificate. It's just reworded there. I actually like their proposal better than the way we said it.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
And then 9.3, they include other criteria for trying to achieve a balanced population at the school, which also is, I think, a good proposal. So in addition to racial and ethnic balances, they put special education, EL students, and RFEP students. So I think that's a good addition.
Okay, so wait, this says the balance among its pupils that is reflective of the general population residing within the school district. I thought it was supposed to be similar to the local
No,
school.
in fact, it's a pretty common misunderstanding.
Uh-huh.
That is exactly what the law says. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Tucker. 9.3, it is the general population residing within the school district. Now, it's a challenging
In
thing
which-
to do to try to determine what is the EL population and the general population. So
Yeah,
often
and
it
this-
becomes a comparison to the school district anyways, but that's what the law says.
Okay, interesting. And then it says in which Richmond Charter Academy is located. So then you're not talking about the whole, it says within the school district in which, so whatever that is, I don't
It's
know.
West Contra Costa.
Contra Costa.
So they're, okay, in which it's located, but I mean, West Contra Costa is huge, so they're supposed to be reflective of the entire West Contra Costa district.
This is a part of the, I mean, this is my little segue, but, or my little stump speech. I think this is widely misunderstood, what the law actually says and what authorizers often try to hold a standard for. But that's just
And
me.
it doesn't say anything about foster youth or what are those other categories, but that's not what this is
Well,
about.
depending on the situation, that could be either easier or harder.
Yeah,
You look at Mount Diablo and they would be more difficult.
yep, yep.
I think what's important there is it's really a goal, like they're attempting to do that. And really what's important is their recruitment efforts and that they're attempting to recruit students. Really what we're looking out for here is some sort of discriminatory recruitment attempts by a charter school to recruit a particular type of student that is not representative of the at-large community. So that's, again, in the Charter Schools Act, and it's reiterated here.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
And then the last one is 12.1. There's some weird breaks in this document that got as a byproduct of version control, but it's at the top of page 15, Natalia.
12.1,
Yeah, so if you
Okay.
keep scrolling down,
On 9.5, they crossed out Family Education Rights and Privacy Act and
and they
Just
put the
left.
acronym.
for FERPA. All right, so which one are you on now?
Top of 14, bottom of 12.1. Sorry, top of 15, excuse me. Page 15. 12.1, keep going, there's that
Yeah,
weird page break there.
Check.
I'll fix all that up when you have
Okay,
finalized.
This one, 15, got it.
So this is a part where Mr. Tucker actually noticed when we were reviewing this, that this line, which was in a previous version, multiple versions ago, was somehow not there anymore. And that's not because the charter took it out or anything. I don't know how it happened, frankly. But we just wanted to put it back in. Basically, what this says is that indemnity survives the closure of the school, right? Especially in this case, when A Method Public Schools would likely still be in existence, operating their other charter schools. If we were sued, a year after that school's closure, we want that, those protections to still exist.
For sure, that's good. Thank you.
So that's the totality of the meaningful changes that either we made or the charter has made, and I think we've covered them, so that's my part.
Yeah, so, but you skipped over 10.1. AMP shall notify the county board and CCOE within 5 days of any pending or actual litigation. It says known pending.
Well, I
I mean,
think-
if they know, they have to notify us,
Yes.
right? This means they put in known because what if they don't?
Well, if it's
know
unknown,
about
they
it?
can't notify us.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Gotta go to that AI.
Okay, so then that's fine. Why don't we go over the ones that I proposed as well, which were in section 7. And I see you didn't add them to this. These are on the separate document, which is attached to the agenda. So 7.2, 7.2 reads AMPS ensures that all members of the board of directors of AMPS, Richmond Charter Academy, this is the way it already is, Richmond Charter Academy, primary financial contact and other Richmond Charter Academy staff deemed appropriate have participated in training and requirements of the Brown Act and the Political Reform Act. So they didn't include the AMP CEO and the people who are sitting at the board table aside from the AMPS board are not included. That's the CEO, and the administrative. Just trying to get, executive assistant, but I put administrative leadership. I don't know what the right term for that is. But that's what I was proposing to add, right? Because that's separate from the RCA leadership. Does that make sense, Neil?
I understand what you're proposing, yes.
Okay. Do you have any problem with that, Mike?
Really, in my opinion, our MOU does a very good job of highlighting the legal requirements that the charter school is required to follow and calling attention to those items to make it very clear to all the parties involved what's required of the charter. For anything above that, it's really the discretion of the board and the committee here to determine what other requirements we add. So I don't know that I have any particular strong legal opinions regarding adding these items here.
Right. Okay, well, I just want to say where it says Richmond Charter Academy, I'm assuming that our template said the charter or something. And it was changed to Richmond because we plugged in that. for
That's
everything.
likely correct, yes.
And the charter in this case, we're talking about a board meeting. It's about the board and who's at the board table and who deals with the board agenda and that. So, I don't know. You can
An alternative here could be that we put, instead of those Richmond Charter Academy leader, Richmond Charter Academy primary, blah, 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 we put organizational leadership deemed appropriate.
Yeah.
Something
that's
all
fine,
inclusive.
Because it's a long list and it doesn't.
Candidly, the Richmond Charter Academy principal is likely not participating in Brown Act training because they're
Right.
likely not around the table. They could speak to that if they wanted to, but it's really, if you put something generic like organizational leadership deemed appropriate, then it's all inclusive. These folks are, when they're doing their Brown Act trainings at board meetings. So the
Right.
people that, like the CEO, the CFO, those folks that are there at the board meetings are gonna participate. So I like
So I
that.
think that's fine.
We could kind of make that the standard,
And then
so then
that-
it always applies.
Yeah, my only comment would be, I think 2 weeks is a little tough to make.
Oh,
Well,
you
we
mean
didn't
the
get
next
to the timing
paragraph.
piece yet.
That's the
Oh, I'm
next
sorry.
paragraph. We were talking about the first sentence. Where,
So we'll
Whatever you
change
guys
it to a more generic organizational leadership.
Overall umbrella.
That works for me. I don't think there'd be any complaints there.
but other people have to know something about the Brown Act, for when, like you, when we talk to you, you have to know you can't tell another board member, so-and-so said this, they have to have a general understanding. But, and that's, maybe the principal or I don't know who else, but, I agree,
I don't know
let's just
that-
change it.
I think it's probably not wise, in my opinion, to try to get into
Name
a
all those
prescriptive
people.
list of like employment titles and things like that.
Right, oh, yeah, I wasn't trying
The
to.
custodian doesn't need this training. The part-time receptionist, secretary, whoever.
Although, given that it's at an open meeting and part of that meeting, anybody who wants to
That's
know about the
true.
Brown Act can
That's true.
participate.
And the school could come back and say, hey, everybody's gonna do it.
Well, they need to, tell the employees that need to know to come and listen to the Brown Act training. That's up to them to know. So what we're gonna say is all members of the board of directors of AMPS and what was it?
Organizational leadership as
And-
deemed appropriate. And I think it's, yeah.
Neil, just real quick,
Yep.
deemed appropriate by whom?
Yeah, I think it should be, as the language says, by AMPS. I think it's their job to.
It's their
see who's
responsibility.
appropriate, not ours.
Got it.
I mean, it already says that, so I'm just basically taking out everything in between and putting organizational leadership.
Understood, thanks.
But thank you for clarifying, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, then the next sentence, okay. Okay, you're right, Mike, this is the end of the sentence, says I was adding each year by August 1st, or August 1st is already required. Or I said, or within 2 weeks of their appointment or hire date. it could be a different amount of time. It's just, you know, if you get hired in end of August, you shouldn't wait till the next year to get Brown Act training or appointed as a board member. So what time period would you think is good?
90 days. Within 90 days.
How about in a month? I mean, all they have to do is sign up for a Brown Act training.
Mr. Tucker, I just wanna make sure to clarify, is there any requirement in the law about providing this training for an appointee, you know, within some point of their appointment or election, or is it just that annual requirement?
I'm not sure about the Brown Act training being required in any certain time period. I believe there is a requirement for the ethics training to take place within a certain period of time, but we're just talking about Brown Act specifically.
Yeah,
Let me take a look and see if I can.
I don't think
get
there is.
anything. I don't think there is either.
it's not like it's difficult. They just have to be, if they're like new, they have to get other trainings.
I believe the ethics training is 1 year from the date.
That's
of the
correct, I'm
first
reading
date
it
of
right now.
service. Yeah. I'm not sure about Brown Act training, but from what I remember sitting on boards myself is that, and you both trustees might be able to answer this question as well, is that the ethics training was an online module. I don't recall a specific Brown Act training though. So to Trustee Maxwell's point, like it might be better to give them a little bit more time to complete that to make sure that they're able to actually find and someone is able to provide them a Brown Act training if they're unable to locate like an online module like the ethics training.
Well, all the, you know, there's like CSBA, they offer virtual Brown Act training.
But they don't
all the
offer
time.
it monthly.
No, I know they don't offer it monthly, but they do offer it often.
So I guess
Anyway,
hypothetically,
the reason you would need Brown Act training right away as a board member is you need to know you can't, like serial meetings, you say you're newly appointed to the charter school board. You need to know you can't go talk to each of the board members about the same topic that you're about to vote on and that kind of thing. And you don't want to wait, you know, 2 more meetings and not understand that. And
yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Trustee Butler. I definitely agree that it would be a good idea for all new board members, regardless of the agency, to have some Brown Act training. And I don't know that I'm hearing a lot of discussion that would not be appropriate to add in here. I think it's just the timing, like just to give them, we don't want to create a situation.
we're just
in
talking
which,
about the timing. We have on AMPS, the one this is the MOU for AMPS, for RCA. We have, what, 4 or 5 new board members who you said at the meeting, they were appointed earlier in the year. And they hadn't had Brown Act training. They're going to have it at their next meeting, which is actually tonight, which is part of it's actually on the agenda. I looked for ethics training, so Brown Act is incorporated in that. So that's great, but they've been going for months without it. So to me, that's not a good model. If you have new appointed board members, they should get Brown Act training at some reasonable amount of time when they're appointed. So how about 60 days? I would think they could, you suggested 90 days.
I did. I'm standing by 90 days. If you want to die on a 30-day difference, I will take 60 days.
So if I can add, the Contra Costa County has a training certificate for members of county advisory bodies. And their first sentence says, Contra Costa County independent and advisory body members are required to take 3 trainings within 3 months of appointment or every 2 years thereafter.
3 months is too long. Let's stick with 90 days.
Yeah, same difference. Thank you, Natalia. All right, let's stick with 90 days. Okay,
I can add that in.
so we'll change the 2 weeks to 90 days.
That also allows to make sure that an employee's gonna, well, I guess a board member, well, even that, person's gonna stick. I mean, I come from the private sector. You don't throw everything at them right away because you kind of want to see how they do rolling out and if they're gonna stick, and you don't want them to spend a couple of half days doing trainings and then all of a sudden they don't stick.
Okay, and then it says it's part of Schedule A. Then we go down to 7.3. Okay, this is talking about documents attached. All agendas shall be posted in advance of the board meeting. In accordance with the Brown Act, all documents to be shared at the meeting will be attached to the online agenda. They did not have it attached. And it didn't say on their agenda that they would be available anywhere. It just said they would be attached to the agenda. And then this sentence says before the meeting as required. I think it's important to say, to add there as required by the Brown Act. To be specific. So could we add by the Brown Act? I'm at this point, I don't really care if we add what I was proposing or otherwise made available for public inspection. If they want to attach it to online, that's great. They do have a right, according to the Brown Act, to say, well, it's available at our office, you can come and look at it. But so I'm saying let's add at the end by the Brown Act. Does anyone have a problem with that? Just the next one, okay, good, so we'll add that on there, that's 7.3. Okay. I don't think we have any other problems with the MOU, but the MOU, okay, the other part of the MOU, there's the Schedule B. Let's talk about that now. We don't have to talk about it a lot. I don't have any issues with it. But let's see, you had this last time. There was no change here.
No.
So we don't need to talk about it.
I don't think so.
Okay, we don't need to talk about Schedule B. It's just there for reference. Let's go back to the agenda. Then I had made some suggested changes to Schedule A because, well, I was surprised to see there were a lot of things not posted on the charter websites that I thought would be there. And we used to have them required to be posted on the charter websites. And they're just, since this MOU goes with Schedule A, and so I think the Schedule A needs to be attached to the MOU. It says at the end of the MOU, it refers to Schedule A and B. And yet when you look on our website, the more newer ones, they don't have the Schedule A attached. And so you don't know what's there. So I think we need to go back to attaching Schedule A on the website for reference. So in my recommended changes, this 2-page document that's on the agenda here, board biographies, for example, in AMPS right now, they've got 3 new board members. There's no description at all. We used to require them to post some kind of board biography on their website.
When you say we used to require,
Went back to Caliber, went back to looking at the earlier, on our website, Caliber, Schedule A, then had Schedule B, Schedule C, it had a whole bunch of schedules. That was 2018. And we required them to post more things.
Did we require it or did they just do it?
No, we required
We
it.
required
It
it.
was listed in our Schedule A. And so why wouldn't we want board biographies you know, most of them all, I haven't seen another charter school that I remember that there's nothing written about. I shouldn't say that, but the ones that I'm familiar with, that I remember seeing, they have something describing who they are. In this case, we have, you know, a lot of new board members on this, on this charter board for Method. So why wouldn't we want to know something about who they are? It's not extensive, it's usually just a little paragraph, but right
So is-
now it says,
So was the information that was provided to us during the charter application or whatever the terminology? I remember reading about board bios. They just haven't posted.
right, they haven't posted anything. And we're not requiring them to post anything. Yes, there's a lot of things they're required to submit to us.
They submit the board bios annually to us.
So if I went to their website, those bios aren't on their website.
Some of them are, I think, and they have some placeholders where it says coming soon or something for like some of their others, but to be clear. While most do, maybe all do, I don't know off the top of my head. We are not requiring them per our MOU or
Right.
Schedule A to post on the website.
Right.
Mostly because most of these cases, there is no legal requirement for them to do that.
Right.
Not a bad practice.
Sure.
Yeah, well. I think it would be good to add that to our Schedule A. Let's talk about the other things and then we can go back to that. Their bylaws where it doesn't say they're required to post them. So why wouldn't we want them to post them? Bylaws are where you know how many board members there are, what is their election timeline, that kind of thing. So us as, you know, I have to go ask you to get a copy of the bylaws. If it's me that's asking or anyone in the public doesn't know what their bylaws say by not having to post them. The really important one is 1.2, which is on page 3 of the Schedule A, and that's what I brought up. This is related to the Brown Act. This is kind of was shocking to me to realize that they thought that they didn't have to post an attachment until after the meeting, and it actually says that here, which is not what the Brown Act says. I'm looking at our page 3 of Schedule A, where you've got the third thing down is board meeting agendas, that's fine. The next one is agenda item attachments. It says all documents referred to in the agenda or discussed at the meeting, and then due date within 3 days after the meeting. If they are part of the discussion of the agenda, if there's a document that goes with the agenda, it should be posted on the agenda or available to the public, just as it says in Brown. It shouldn't be 3 days after, because that's what happened at this last meeting. They indicated they would post the document after the meeting. So I think we need to change that to the due date should say the same thing as it is above at the time of required posting for the Brown Act. And then you have it more specifically according to the Brown Act, which is what it should be. Was everyone following that?
I think I do.
Okay,
I'm not sure I agree.
well. What is your question? What is the? why would
I
we
think
not-
there continues to be a suggestion that the law requires online posting of supporting documentation, and it does not explicitly, it does not. It is a best practice. Most people do it in the 21st century, but there are scenarios, as we experience in our own
So-
board, where you walk a document in. What
Right.
this is talking about is that after the meeting, really as a courtesy to the authorizer and to the public, if we do something, walk in a document, talk about it in person, we're gonna attach it later for public consumption. So this has nothing to do with Brown Act compliance here. This is as an extra layer of transparency and access we're gonna bring that to the public forum in our online posting after the meeting. Because we didn't do it on the front end because for whatever reason, we chose not to. We walked it in at the last second because it was a last minute contract, whatever. But there is
Okay.
no legal requirement for them to post something that is a supporting document online on their governance platform.
I hear you. You know what? This doesn't say anything about posting. Here, it does say it over here, method and delivery of access, posted on charter website and submitted. So if you want, we could change that part. They're not required to post it. You're right. They are required to make it available to the public. And if they're not gonna post it, if they didn't have time or whatever, like you said, they walked it in, they have to have it available to the public at the meeting. They have to have a copy for whoever's in the public. They can't just only give it to the board and that's
I
very
don't
clear.
disagree with you. I also we did not find any instance where that wasn't the case recently. We
Well-
gave them guidance on how they could update the language in their agenda, but they did not violate the Brown Act.
They didn't, okay, I don't think this is the place where we're gonna argue whether they violated the Brown Act. But because we can't prove anything. But what their agenda said was any additional documents would be posted to the website. And they weren't posted to the website. That what it should have said, which all of our agendas say, is that any other documents that are distributed to the board less than 72 hours in advance are available at the office. In other words, somebody can come in and look at it or come to the meeting and see a copy. There's supposed to be a copy available to the public if you don't have it posted on the agenda. So that's what they didn't do. They should have added that in the text at the top, available at the office with the address, or it said it would be added to the agenda, but you can't just not make it available to the public and say, well, sorry, we'll post it
Nobody is
later.
suggesting that. Nobody's
Well, this
suggesting
doesn't-
that's their policy or their practice, and nobody's suggesting that's what we should condone.
Okay.
They know, we know, documents should be made
Well-
available to the public.
Well, that didn't happen at this last meeting. Anyway, they said they would. post it.
Disagree.
Well, they said, I listened to the recording. It said we'll post it after the meeting. That's not saying that it's available. Oh, there's a copy over there on the side table, or ask the CEO there or whatever. So anyway, we're not here to argue about that. What I'm saying is look at what we have here. It says board meeting agendas posted on the website, agenda item attachments. Attachments should be also posted unless they're not available, then they're available in hard copy at the office. It doesn't say that. But it's very misleading to have here within 3 days after the meeting. That makes it sound like you don't have to share the attachments until 3 days after the meeting. And that's exactly,
That is what that says. I mean,
Yeah,
that is
well,
what
it's-
that says.
that is not the case. According to the Brown Act. You can't not make documents available to the public until after the meeting. Ah,
I think I am
I'll look it up
being
in my
persuaded by trustee Butler here that if I understand the conversation correctly, so a document related to the agenda is discussed by the board like less than 72 hours. So after the agenda is posted, there's a new document that has been discussed by the board or the committee. In my opinion, that should be posted immediately to the website. There was a recent case in which this was discussed, and the local agency that made the document available later did get into some trouble because they did not make it available at the time that the board discussed it. I understand what we're talking about here is availability on the website, but I could envision a scenario in which an argument is made that not posting it to the website is a barrier to access. Put differently, if the charter were to not post it to the website and say, oh, it's available at the office, you can come get it, an argument could be made that that is preventing individuals in the public from accessing it. I understand Neil's point about best practices, certainly. I think it would be best for them to avoid that scenario. And I think the tenor of the ruling that I'm thinking of clearly supports access as quickly as possible. Practically speaking, it shouldn't be difficult for them to add that information quickly at the same time, almost instantaneous. I mean, we do it, local agencies do it all the time. We add that information instantaneously up to a board. A lot of board agendas list websites at the bottom and specify that that information will be provided at the website. So it happens pretty quickly, and practically, I don't think it's much of an imposition to require them to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you said, and then people can, if it's only available at the meeting, people could complain about access. Well, they can come to the meeting. The meeting has to be an accessible place. And then if the document is available at the meeting, it's available to the public. It doesn't have to be, you know, there are Brown Act meetings where they're not online. You don't have to, you still don't have to, Manzanita's, I looked them up, they don't have online meetings. It looks like you have to go there. And so their documents would be there when you go there. And so there's nothing keeping you from doing that. But yeah, the document has to be available to the public at the meeting. You can't say, well, we'll share it with you after this. And it's especially obvious when it's something they're voting on. You know, for them to vote on something and it's not available to the public, I would never, as a board member, I would find that very wrong. If we were asked to vote on something and the document wasn't available to the public in some way, either attached or available there at the meeting. So that's my point on this, saying that within 3 days here gives them the impression the attachments don't have to be available until 3 days later. And that's not right. I think we absolutely need to keep.
Yeah, the website also offers it's not an exception, but it's an ability for them to comply with the Brown Act when disclosable public records are made available during the meeting. So, and like I said, I think with modern websites and my understanding of how they're utilized, I don't know that it is much of an imposition to require that. So maybe as a way, Neil, we could bring this information to the charter school and see if they have any issue with following that rule. And if they don't, then I think it kind of solves that problem. But we could always discuss it with them and see if there's any issue with following that way, as Trustee Butler has suggested.
Well, wait, this is the Brown Act, so, I mean, what do you mean if they have any issue? You mean you're gonna ask them to post it on their website, and if they have an issue with that, then they have to make sure that it's available at their office, right? They
So
can't say, we can't make it available at all to the public until.
What
after
is the exact, can we go back to the exact language we're anticipating suggesting we add to the MOU? I know we have the Schedule A here on the screen.
We're looking at, are you talking about what's the wording in schedule in the MOU?
What's the language we're proposing to add that will require them to add information to the website? Is this after all documents referred to the agenda or discussed at the meeting within 3 days after the meeting? Is that what I'm reading on this, that we're suggesting changing that language?
Yes, take out the within 3 days of the meeting.
What do you want to say?
It should say like what it says above, at the time required, What does that mean? At time of required posting, okay, that's for board agendas. At time of required posting per the Brown Act. Which means if, that would mean, you have to read the Brown Act to understand that. It means if the document is available when the agenda is posted, the document should be posted as well at the same time. If the document's not available, and then you've got the within 72 hours business, then you have to either, then you have to just make sure that it's available to the public before the meeting. I mean, you have to go back to what is the language in the Brown Act.
Right. I think there's a misunderstanding about what this is trying to accomplish. This is, according to the Brown Act, if I walk a document into the meeting, make a copy available for the public in that meeting, I do not have to do anything else with that document after the meeting is over. It never has to go onto a website. or a
Well, I
platform.
don't know. Natalia's the one who has to deal with this. You are, it is supposed to be attached to, if
No.
it's the document, like say it was your PowerPoint presentation.
It does not.
Wasn't finished.
There's nothing in the
Well-
law that says you have to do that.
Yeah.
This is
okay. So
adding
we
that
have a
additional
disagreement.
burden. That
No, I don't
actually
think
for
so.
the public, I'm going to put it online after the meeting. Now, what we could do to avoid all of this, which is the problem with MOUs, is we could just know that the Brown Act is applicable. And not have to try to re-articulate it in a variety of different ways in our own document. The law is the law and it applies,
Right.
regardless of what we say.
So
We could put something that it says as required by law. And I did want to clear up what Neil is suggesting here. So this is Government Code Section 54957.5. And it relates to a writing that is a matter subject to discussion or consideration at an open meeting of a body less than 72 hours before the meeting. The writing shall be made available for public inspection pursuant to the following. The local agency shall make any writing available for public inspection at the public office or location that the agency shall designate for this purpose, and the agency shall list the address of the office or location designated for such purpose on the agenda. But that's not required if, and there's some exceptions here, one of them is posting it to a website. So it could be the case that we just change the due date to as required by law, because there are some different timelines that apply depending on when the document is made available. So
Right.
maybe that would help
Like-
resolve this situation.
So we're talking about additional requirements beyond the law.
No, we're not. It says that in the law, that the document must be available. Isn't that what you just
can you
read?
read that? Oh, is that what he?
I think that's
My-
what he just read.
Mike did just read that, but.
Yeah.
Mr. Tucker, is there a scenario in which you do not have to post that to the online platform ever? As long as your agenda says where to find it in person at the office?
Correct.
Exactly. This is an additional burden on the charter school to make it posted online after the meeting as a favor to the public.
Wait.
The CSBA.
I never said that it had to be posted. It says here that it has to be due within 3 days after the meeting. So.
Keep going
you don't-
on that
okay,
road. Look
then
at the
it
far
says-
right,
Okay,
right here. To be posted on charter website.
all right, so maybe we need to change those boxes. What I was dwelling on was the 3 days. It needs to be available to the public during the meeting, not 3 days later. And the statement that it doesn't have to be posted on the website, that's true, but it has to be available to the public. So if it's not posted on the website, it needs to say in here that it's available at their office, and it doesn't. I've got their agenda here, a method, regular meeting, and they haven't changed it. Access to board materials, a copy of the written materials which have been submitted to the school board with the agenda relating to open session items may be reviewed by any interested person on the Method Public School website following the posting of the agenda. A method, so it doesn't say anything about or seeing it at the office. Then it says a method reserves the right to show or distribute additional information and or documents to the school board at the meeting and will make copies of such documents related to open session items available to the public upon request. Okay, so.
So what we suggested
Presumably
to them
that's
is to
at
add the
meeting.
address.
Yeah, they have to say it, they're
And
available.
they've already
at-
said they will add the address.
Didn't hear that. When did they say that?
After the last board meeting, when our legal counsel said that would probably be a good idea.
Yeah, okay. They'll add the address in here to this paragraph. Okay, very good. But this thing here makes it sound like they've got 3 days to, and that's, to me, absolutely wrong. So we need to change the 3 days and this posting on the website.
I think the 3
Okay.
days refers to when it's due to the county office. Schedule A is all documents that are required generally to provide to the county office.
Well, no, that's. But there's a lot of things that here that say posted on the website. Like, for example, organization chart, posted on the charter website
Mhm.
on the first page. This is also to ensure that the information is available to the public that needs to be. And I'm not just trying to be picky here, it's just that it's very important for the public and for transparency, and this is, you know, public money, charter schools use public money, the kids are students of the, you know, in the county that we care about, and I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to just be picky, I'm saying they can't have the impression that they don't have to post things till 3 days later. So whatever your intent was fine, but I think this statement is misleading. So let's take out the 3 days.
I didn't draft this. This was not my intent. This is the
Oh.
document that I inherited.
Okay. Okay,
I wouldn't put this at all. I would take that whole section out.
well, maybe that's what we should do, is take that whole section out. I mean,
The Brown Act is the Brown Act.
The law is the law. When you leave this building, you know you can't drive 75 miles an hour down Oak Park Boulevard. Well, you can. You can. But I mean, that's really the point. The point is that we're following the law. Now, if we want to pile on, that's a different conversation. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we are in an hour and 2 minutes. And
all right, so let's
do have-
finish this up. I didn't expect to talk this long about.
I
this.
do have another commitment.
The
Right.
Brown Act's very exciting stuff.
It is. I was
So-
introduced to it 10 years ago. It's still lodged in my head.
Changed your life, I'm sure. The Brown Act has changed
Completely.
everything for you.
Completely.
What
We
we
kind of have
could,
the same problem with the next thing, minutes. But the next one, minutes says 2 days. They should have draft minutes at the meeting. So I don't know, what do we do? Take both of those out or say
with it,
attachments?
I do have a
and-
suggestion, trustee Butler. I
Yeah.
think with the board or the committee's input here, Neil and I can take a look. And with it, particularly as it relates to the Brown Act, considering the time we have available today, we can take a look and where we can just input as required by law, we'll input as required by law, or we'll take things out where it's just reciting the law, just as it relates to Schedule A. That might clarify some things to make sure that it's not confusing.
Okay, and then the other, just really quickly, and I'm finishing this up, Mike. Just the other thing that I brought up to Neil was there's a lot of things like the budget and the audit report and things that are required. And yet it doesn't say in here that they have to be posted on the website. And like current budget, so can't we add that posted to the website? Unaudited actuals, annual audit report, second interim, first interim. None of that says, it just says submitted to CCOE. So that's a request. We don't have to discuss it in detail. Do you have any problem with that, Neil, or what?
I think we're gonna probably have to have another charter committee meeting before the next board meeting, if you want to have this MOU ready for the board meeting. Yeah,
Well,
otherwise we, I
this
mean,
is,
we can
this
push
is
it till.
Schedule A, but I said, well, what do you, I mean, what happens on the other charters? It doesn't say those things have to be post it on their website, so it's just up to them whether they post their budget?
That is correct.
Wow.
Whatever the law requires of them. And
So, to our attorney, what does the law require in terms of posting a budget, or do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not aware of any law that requires it to be posted online, but I'm just not aware of any.
many do,
Okay.
not all. They, of course, are part of agendas and supporting documentation for the board meetings. The public can access them on those venues. But there's not a requirement to create a sub-page on your website that's budgets or, policies or any of these other things, because those aren't legal requirements.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm concerned about is this charter school had financial issues, and granted, you're gonna get all these documents, but how does anyone else know how they're doing? So, I don't know, Mike, what are your thoughts on
Well,
this?
it seems like, as far as that type of information, posting it online, again, it's one of those, do we want to add that extra layer, that extra responsibility? But as far as oversight, I mean, that's where I say repeatedly, that's Neil's job. And Neil's team provides the oversight, provides us with the digestible information that we need, and then we can make a decision based upon that. I don't want to be going line by line through any charter's budget. I don't want to do that. That's not my role. My role is our budget. And that applies to everything, not just charter schools.
Right.
That applies to everything. That is not my role. That's where I trust the staff. Staff
Right.
that the superintendent hires.
Right, I guess I was also looking at it that we represent the parents, the families, whatever, and what other, they're not gonna dig into the budgets, but there's, policies, do they have all the, like complaint policies, Title IX policies, all that, is that available to them? I don't know that we've checked for that kind of thing.
So let me ask you this as I'm watching the clock. Is that something that if you got a request from the public, that you want to have all that information at your fingertips so that you can provide it back to someone that asks for it? Or,
No, I wouldn't, no, that's so that they have access. I mean, they do have to post this parent-student handbook, there's certain things, Title IX, complaint forms. There's certain things, right, Neil, that they're required to have available on their website?
There are some very specific legal requirements for what's on the website and what's not. If you're asking my opinion about what our schedule should say, I think we should defer to that. But that's not how this was created, right? Whenever it was originally drafted, somebody went through and said, we want this on the website, we want that on the website. I think that's a little messy, just to be candid. I always would defer back to what does the law say? Because I'm not creating a law.
well, and just because it's posted online, I mean, it's like, right, not everything on the internet's the truth.
Yeah.
And so just because they post something online doesn't mean it's current, doesn't mean it's accurate, doesn't mean they posted it, they did what they needed to do. But this age of instantaneous information available anywhere, I think that's a bad practice for us to get into, because we could be putting out bad information if they're posting stuff just to make sure that they make a 3-day deadline and they don't have current or correct information on there. My opinion. I like
All right,
defaulting.
well, I like your statement that they have to post whatever's according to the law. Let's make sure that's somewhere, and then let's just have those changes about the Brown Act, and Mr. Tucker and Neil can confer about the wording. Maybe you can, is it possible for you to let us know what you came up with before, the 3 days before the board meeting, or what?
I mean, I don't know, I guess I confer with the
Do we really have to
superintendent about
post it online?
I am more than happy with Mr. Tucker's help to take a stab at it and bring it forward to the September board meeting. The issue, of course, is if the charter committee doesn't, agree with what we recommend, then I know the board does not like to do charter work in the
Yes, no.
board meeting. So I just,
Yeah, well, we just said maybe we take out these, attachments and minutes are pretty much the same. They both are required to be posted. The minutes just have to say draft. And, you just have to say according to the Brown Act. And come up with whatever that wording is, and then that's fine. So,
so am I hearing that you want us to go ahead and take a shot at it and
Yeah.
bring it to the board meeting in September?
yeah,
Okay,
that, okay
I
with
think
you?
Sure.
we have the recording of this. We'll watch it back. We'll make sure we are catching everything and we'll do our
Okay.
best.
Okay, and then we'll have to defer the other items to another meeting next month. Wait, I misplaced my agenda here. Okay, so we will now future agenda items, and we'll carry on with whatever we missed, plus whatever's new next month. Future meeting dates, we'll let Natalia schedule that for next month. So then, are we ready to adjourn? We will adjourn the meeting at 10:41. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Special thanks to Mr. Tucker.
Oh, you didn't, did we take public comment?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
take it back, start over. Public comment, please, on our last agenda item, 4.2.
Yeah, if you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature.
Thank you. Okay, now we adjourn at 10:42.